Good morning, everyone, or good evening. I guess it depends on where you're at, but welcome and thank you for joining us today. My name is Mary Price, and I'm the Events and Marketing Director at the Shingo Institute at Utah State University. And I'm so excited to have Mike Martyn with us today. Mike is a Shingo Academy member, a faculty fellow, and a Shingo publication recipient. He's also the founder and president of Sisu Consulting Group, who is a Shingo licensed affiliate. He's been a longtime friend of the Institute and has helped develop much of our training material. Last week, we published an article in the newsletter that was written by Mike titled The Relentless Pursuit of Mastery. You can find that article by visiting our website at shingo.org/articles. Mike, thanks so much for being here, and I'll turn the time over to you.
Perfect. Thanks, Mary. Always great to see you, and welcome to everybody who is, at least in my time zone, getting up early so that we can have a little bit of time together. I'm going to get us started here because I know we have limited time. So today I want to talk a little bit about maturity to mastery, or this theme that we've really been working with at my group, which is, what does it look like as after you've aspired to understand and adopt the model, to really develop systems and behaviors. And now you start to get to this inevitable question of what's next? Where do we go from here? And we have really challenged ourselves and our clients to think about their journey to excellence more as a commitment to mastery than as to did they achieve a certain level of maturity. So I'm going to go through some of the thoughts that I've got on that, the work that we've been doing, and I hope that you'll be able to take away a thought or two from this discussion. So first, a little bit about us. As Mary said, I've been involved with the Shingo Institute for more than 20 years now. I've got an amazing team. We really are dedicated to helping organizations both understand and embrace the model, as well as how to implement an amazing culture of excellence, continuous improvement, and how do you balance this dedication that we have for people, but also this drive to continuously improve performance. So today I'm going to talk about how we have been taking people along for the journey, but also helping to inspire them to these next phases in really redefining what excellence means to them, to their organization, and to the continued work they do with their culture. So today's topic is mastery. What is mastery? This is a term that gets a lot of airtime. You'll see a lot of work being done about skills mastery and what does it mean? How much time does it take to master a skill or become the master of the skill? And for the purposes of today, though, I wanted to use a definition of mastery that not only leverages this idea that mastery involves a high level of proficiency, expertise, or skill in a particular subject or activity, but I want to tap into this idea that the true spirit of mastery for us goes beyond proficiency. It kind of not only embodies that you really understand principles well, especially in the context of the Shingo model, but that you've got a capacity for innovation and your drive, your desire, and your capability relative to excellence, using the model, leveraging principles, developing behaviors, really pushes you into a zone where you're stretching the boundaries of what's known or possible. So when we think of mastery, I want you to think about it, equating it to innovation and equating it to those on the pursuit to mastery are really helping to expand our knowledge of principles of these cultures, what it means to be excellent. They're really out on the forefront. Now, just for a perspective, when I said, we're going to talk about maturity versus mastery, I wanted to give a little bit of a table here to describe in my mind what are some of those differences with maturity and mastery. And as you look through this slide, I wanted you to notice some of the words that I've highlighted that I think really start to help shape this difference in your mind as to, well, we've been going after levels of maturity, but what does it mean for us really to embrace mastery? And if you see in that first line with the mindset that maturity is about achieving benchmarks, but mastery is starting to think about in developing a visionary approach. Maturity is about continuously improving within an existing framework, and mastery is about transforming the field itself. Maturity is about achieving proficiency, whereas mastery is about pushing boundaries. Maturity is adhering to ideal behaviors and ideal systems, while mastery is more about continuously pursuing deeper knowledge and new insights. Lastly, maturity really involves this idea that we are adhering to best practices, we're leveraging best practices, whereas mastery is pushing the limits of what is possible. As I view it and I think about it, I view these in sequence, that without learning, developing, and implementing relative to the maturity model, especially the maturity model found within Shingo, then you don't have the ability nor the capability to really truly achieve mastery in the field. But if you are stopping at maturity, if you're thinking we have systems designed, we are seeing the right behaviors, we are sustaining success, then mastery really involves that next frontier. You know, how do we become known for being unique, impactful, leading the way? How do we use a continued evolution and learning model to push ourselves past where we are to where we can be? So an example that I used in the article, and one that I want to tell you a little bit more about today, was really this idea of master craftsman. And in the article, I made the statement that you often will hear a standard 10,000 hours, to master a skill, or 10,000 hours to become of dedicated practice to become, very capable and expert relative to a skill. But there's a concept in Japan called Takumi, and Takumi is the word for a master craftsman. And when you read more about Takumi, what is very apparent is that when the Japanese talk about mastery, especially relative to mastery in terms of being a master craftsman, the requirement is sixfold. It's viewed as a minimum of 60,000 hours to become a master craftsman. But more importantly, it really is about making a shift in how you think and your level of commitment, because to become truly a Takumi in the Japanese eyes, it is a lifelong commitment to the innovation of your craft. Rather than just achieving a level of maturity or certification in your craft, meaning you've achieved a level of proficiency with the craft, Takumi represents a lifelong commitment to the innovation of the craft. And as an example of that, I talked about Japanese swordsmiths, the art and the science behind creating Japanese katana. And I've got an example here that I think really typifies this idea of what does it take to embrace mastery? What does it look like when you're on this lifetime commitment to the innovation of your craft? And I'm going to use an example of Yoshimitsu Ono. And Ono-san is probably one of the most famous living swordsmith in Japan right now. You're seeing a picture here of my wife and I. Actually, we were in Japan for another reason. We were attending this exclusive dinner and celebration for a famous swordsman. And it was really an amazing opportunity for me to meet Ono. I had heard about him. I actually have a sword from the smiths that taught him, but it was a chance meeting that was really amazing. And it was amazing not only because I may not have had a chance to ever meet him before, but it was also amazing to see how humble he was, how much he was really shy about how good he was. But he's got an amazing history. You know, he was born in 48. He started learning the art of swordsmanship in a Yoshihara. That's a family school. They're quite famous in Japan, and both brothers and a grandson were also, you know, master craftsmen. He started his own forge in 1976, and what he became known for was his desire and his accomplishment to reproduce this sanchomo, this specific sword that is considered a national treasure in Japan. And the first time he reproduced it and put it up for examination or judging was in 1984. Now, what's fascinating is I was dealing with another sword expert and conversing back with Ono, you know, in preparation for this presentation. And I asked him, you know, how many times has he tried to replicate that sword since? And he's very famous for, if the sword is starting to be made, but it doesn't fit these very strict parameters and doesn't bring out the magic of what made this national treasure so inspiring, he will scrap the sword right away and just start again. And it was only 25 times since 1984 that he has replicated successfully this sword, and he's known for it. In 1987, he was awarded Mukansha, which is really just a master swordsman. And what really, I think, is such a great example of mastery is that he perfected this style of the hamon, which is really the temper line. And I'll show it to you in a second, but he perfected it and he became known for it, Ono Choji. And what was fascinating about it when you see it is that it was viewed as lost, this technique as lost and not able to be replicated ever again. And in this last, in just basically a month ago, he had a very high profile showing that was celebrating 50 years of his devotion to his craft. And he had displayed one of these swords, and you can see it here, one of his blades. In Japan, the period of 1185, the Kamakura period, to 1333 was viewed as the pinnacle of sword making. And in many cases, the journey of master swordsman is to try to replicate the quality of the blades that were made at this time that were viewed as lost and not able to be replicated again. And the hamon that I mentioned is really the cloud-like, if you see it right along the blade where it looks discolored, where it's really the tempered edge, and that pattern, when you see it, was thought to be impossible, meaning to get this pattern truly the way the national treasure was almost viewed as outside of the bounds of what was capable, humanly possible to replicate. And so not only did he aspire to replicate it, did he spend a lifetime to try to replicate it, but he's done it only 25 times since 1984. And what you're looking at is a blade done in the spring of 2022 that was the showcase piece for this celebration of his 50 years. And you see, he says, you know, it has become his signature piece. This tachi, or long sword, is the result of pursuing hamon, flamboyance, and my own skills to the limits. And you can see him there. He's got visitors that are coming and he's presenting, and that's the blade right there, you know, at the entrance of this exhibition. And he was asked about this, you know, his devotion to his craft and what he was aspiring to do. And he said these words, you know, I've spent my life trying to recreate Ichimonji Tachi, which was a school, probably one of the most famous schools of swords makers, with many different features to look at. Many people are fascinated by these kind of works. I have to ask myself, where do I begin to approach making such works? The challenge of approaching such a task is endless. And I think just in this example with Ono, with his commitment to recreating a historic blade that had been considered lost, forever. I think you start to see and really get a deep feeling of the difference between maturity or achieving benchmarks within a framework and mastery, which is to push the boundaries of the framework. So not only was he viewed as successfully replicating in his own style, but he has become known for his interpretation of the style. In some ways, he's even surpassed this school and become known for what he does, for his contribution to the art. And I think this is really a key point when we think about what is the difference between maturity and mastery. And I've tried to sum it up here as I ponder this and think more about it and see how we're really using this as a way to influence, our clients and their journey. Is that maturity is a milestone in your journey. Maturity is moving from level 2 to level 3, level 3 to level 4, level 4 to level 5. But mastery really involves a mindset. Mastery involves having an aspiring vision like Ono did, that he could possibly commit his life to recreating this national treasure. Mastery is about the mindset of creating an amazingly high standard. And even though it's a lonely road, it's continuing to invest in knowledge and learning and experimentation to innovate and push the bounds of what's possible. And mastery is definitely a mindset from the standpoint of committing to this journey, to looking at it as a journey and a lifelong journey that never ends, as opposed to a moment in time where you've accomplished a level of proficiency. So, what are some of the lessons that I've really taken away from not only having an opportunity to get to know master craftsmen in a variety of different industries across Japan? Quite frankly, it fascinates me, and I find myself more and more wanting to search out those amazing craftsmen who have devoted their life to it, and getting to hold on to a piece of a little bit of their passion and their engagement wrapped up into the product or the piece of art, that they do. And from that, as I've thought about what is mastery, how does mastery or commitment to it really help us take the next step from achieving the levels of maturity, there has been some things that have really stuck with me. Number one is how critical it is to make a commitment to mastery, how critical it is to put myself into the mindset as a leader, but also to have us as an organization embrace that the road to mastery first starts with a commitment to get there. And without that commitment, like Ono showed in his ability and his willingness to really look at his passion and translate that out into recreating what was considered a lost technique and a lost blade, without that, I think the best you may only achieve is levels of proficiency and maturity, but I don't think you're going to help redefine the industry, have a lasting legacy, help those that follow be inspired to walk that path. And he certainly has done that in his craft and in Japan. Now, when we think about what our specific journey in excellence, what does it mean for our journey in becoming an amazing organization and continuing to redefine what excellence means? First is mastery is about understanding that we must continue to evolve, that we must be willing, like Ono, to set an amazingly high standard. And if we don't meet that standard, to keep trying and trying again. It's about being willing to question where we are right now, not get stuck in a rut of what's made us successful in the past, but to continue to be willing to redefine what we do to find a better future. And that's all about evolution and evolving our definition of excellence, but what we and how we achieve excellence. Second is the concept of elegance. I think many of you may have seen or noticed that you will look at this development curve and you'll go from simple to complex to then elegant. And they'll say, elegance is simplicity on the other side of complexity. And I think for us to continue to master our craft as leaders and to master our craft relative to creating amazing cultures of excellence, we have to relentlessly simplify what we do and drive toward elegance. On this road to maturity, I'll often see organizations that keep layering on complexity to their management system. They keep layering on additional behaviors, additional standards, additional processes in the name of continuing to drive toward excellence. But I think mastery is then moving past the complexity, understanding principles at a very deep level, and then moving systems to elegance. Moving from simplicity to elegance requires hard work and discipline, but it also requires education, or at least an understanding of the appreciation as to how powerful elegance can be, not only for our people, but also for our systems and our continued performance. Finally is experience. And this is the one that we're doing a lot of work with. I published a book a few years ago called Management for Omotenashi. And in that book, I described really, in some cases, this was a commitment to mastery from a leadership perspective to say, how do we go past just documenting, developing, and adhering to behaviors driven by systems, but how do we start to look at the interaction we have with those systems from a leadership perspective, from a team member perspective, relative to the experience we have while we're using those systems. So we've really pushed the envelope to say it's one thing to demonstrate a behavior. It's another thing to have that behavior and that system contributing to an amazing experience. And we will often talk about with the groups that we work with and for ourselves as an organization, how can we use a daily management system? How can we use this culture of excellence to transform work into the reason people get up in the morning? The reason they want to come to work is because of the experience they have while they work. And that is really where we've taken, we've looked at evolution, continuing to evolve and pushing evolution, the drive to move our systems to elegance, and moving from behaviors to experience. And these are three keys that we've seen and that we've been working on to really move ourselves from this adherence to maturity to a commitment to mastery. So why is it so important for your journey? I mean, if you haven't already heard my passion around it, or what I think is so inspiring about it, I put a couple of my own reflections here. Number one, and I've kind of put these together to say, listen, maturity to me relies on systems where mastery shifts the focus to people. While systems are critical, even on our road to mastery, we move from a design, a build, and a follow-up on systems to really a focus on bringing out the best in people's ability to use those systems to continue to evolve and find out what's possible. Whereas I think maturity is about improving performance, a commitment to mastery is key to unleashing innovation in your organization. And finally, maturity definitely fosters sustainability, but I think it's mastery that ensures relevance. And when I say ensures relevance, what I mean is if you start to become known for how you are pushing your culture forward, how you are redefining excellence, systems don't stay, cultures don't stay where they're at. Either you are driving them forward to continue to evolve, or they are falling back. It's, one of the things we talk about as an institute and as examiners, that if you achieve a level of Shingo recognition and you only stay where you are and you don't continue to push forward, then 5 years from now, you're going to receive a lower level of recognition or a lower score just by definition of not pushing it forward. So I think mastery is really a key to ensuring that you are pushing the bounds of where you are tapping into unlocking potential, and you're going to ensure that your culture and your organization remains vibrant and relevant into the future. All right, so let's wrap up on a couple of next steps. I highlighted these in the article, and I really believe these are critical in terms of if you said, okay, Mike, I've listened to you. I'm starting to understand what you're saying relative to maturity and mastery. I'd like to explore this more. Here's a starting point, 3 key things to start, all right, with how you move from maturity to mastery. Number 1 is how critical it is to adopt a mindset which is driving toward mastery. To do that, you have to view challenge and make challenge be embedded in all that you do. It's not good enough just to be green. It's to try to take that green and aspire to be great. It's not enough just to say we have achieved the benchmark, we have replicated a best practice, but we've got to continue to push to redefine that best practice. This mindset is less about we are demonstrating the behaviors driven by the systems to achieve excellence and more about continuously pushing our ability to learn and innovate. And I would ask you, and we ask ourselves, what assumptions about excellence that we've made are outdated? It might be the training programs we have. It might be some of the systems that we've designed. But as we reflect on it, what might be holding us back in our mindsets from pushing the entire industry forward? Second is vision. Vision to me is really about tapping into what Ono said when he thought, this is what I want to commit my life to. This is what I have a vision of. Is it possible for me to continue to develop my skills and capabilities to a point where I can rediscover what once was lost? Vision is about setting a high bar and saying it's not about how you score, it's not about how mature you are, but it's about inspiring others to make a connection with your picture of what mastery will mean, to help people connect their work to and their contribution to our vision of the future. And it's really, I think, in some respects, making a shift to where it's not just about continuous improvement, but it's also about continuously driving for innovation as well. So that key question for me is, are we settling for maturity or are we striving for mastery? And finally, it's the environment we create. You will often hear from me if you're in my sessions that, to me, the daily management system is the environment we create where leaders and team members come together to unlock their potential and to release the performance that they have inside of them. And if we think about that environment and we think about that daily management system, to me, that commitment to mastery or moving from maturity to mastery means we're starting to emphasize curiosity, passion, development. It's not just, are we following the systems? Are we doing the work? Are we executing on problem solving where we need to? But have we created an environment where it truly allows people to experience curiosity and to follow that curiosity to new opportunities to improve? Are we tapping into the passion that each person can bring to the work each and every day? And are we thinking about development cycles, not just developing skills, but also how people are developing their ability to be a part of our commitment to mastery? So that key question there for me are we developing deeper knowledge, intuition, and insight? Are we moving past just skills and capabilities and really tapping into what's necessary if you're going to create a culture of excellence that would be equivalent to what Ono has done with his swordsmanship. All right. So that's what I have for you this morning. I've got 24 minutes, Mary. I was well within my 30, which is great for an opportunity for some questions. But I hope that what I've done is kind of framed for you how I view mastery and how we've thought of a commitment to mastery versus just on the road to maturity, and how really bringing mindset, vision, and our emphasis in our environment can help springboard you into that next round of improvements, that next level of innovation in your excellence journey.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mike. That was so great. If anyone has any questions, we do have a few, well, we have like 1 minute maybe for questions. Uh,
Oh,
go ahead,
sorry.
go ahead and ask it in the Q&A. There is one in there right now, Mike. They're
Okay.
asking, who do you consider to be a master on TPS or lean?
Oh my goodness, that is a really good question, and at the risk of sidestepping it a bit, um, I don't know that. I think that what I would say is, I don't know if we thought about the model, the Shingo model, that I have one group that I say has mastered at that level. I think that when you start to get into whether it be coaching and development or whether it be engaging in Kaizen, then I think you have the opportunity to then start to see examples where when you go out there, you say, I think this part of what they're doing, they've really created deeper learning, deeper knowledge, but I don't have one that sticks out. I'm sorry to say, where they've got it all knocked out. I think that's what's great about the pursuit. And I think that's what I hope the Ono example said. He decided to replicate one style from, 1,000 years of sword making and dedicate to that, but not every style.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, we are out of time. Before we leave, I just wanted to make a note that Mike will be teaching 2 workshops at the Shingo conference in April next month. We would encourage you to come and learn more from him. We would really appreciate to see, lots of faces there. So if you would like to learn more about the conference, just go to shingo.org/events and you can find all you need to go. And we'll be in Provo, Utah. So we hope to see you there. Thanks again, Mike. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Mary. Thanks, everybody. See you at Shingo.